We are all human beings, insofar as all human beings are one. And yet all human beings are the plural. You and I are very different, but both are human beings. There is something common between you and me. It is thought to be a rationality. Well, on a certain level it is true, but we are really spiritual beings, so all children of God. No matter whether Christian or Islam or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. Nobody can stop me from being a child of God. Even God cannot, so to speak. And there we are one. Can I find that unity with you on the spiritual level? This is Sri Aurobindo's problem. But he thinks that evolution is bringing about a certain condition of living, both inward and outward, where this soul of mankind will come out to the front, which at the moment veiled and concealed and sleeping, dormant, but has to come out, make itself felt in outside life on the basis of inner richness of life spiritually. So unity and diversity would mean unity of spirit, diversity of manner of life, which unity of spirit allows. If we look at from the point of view of God or the divine, how does he allow so many religions? There we find the diversity. Human nature is extremely complex and very diverse. Therefore, different kind of religions have to be provided. Everybody cannot follow all the religions or any other religion, unless his inner spirit brings it about. So, there is diversity insofar as life is concerned. There's unity insofar as the spirit is concerned. How do you bring the two together? How do you bring about outside life the spiritual unity, which is the basis of the diversity which will be allowed, because human beings are so different. Their way of life is different, their way of progress is different, their evolution is different. So these we have to allow for. We must address the problem of diversity on the basis of unity, which is spiritual. For that you have to come to yoga. Yoga is an organ of knowledge. Normally it is thought to be something a spiritual discipline which gives you salvation, liberation, whatever. But in point of fact, yoga also is an organ of knowledge. It develops your consciousness in a different way. I will give an example. I know of somebody here in the ashram. He knows about people's problems before they have spoken out. And they give the solution also. At times it has happened, somebody has come to a stranger, he has never met him in his life. He comes and says, "What happened day before yesterday?" "What happened?" "I don't remember." "This happened yesterday or day before yesterday with your life?" "Yes, it did. This happened because of this." "You are troubled with it, I will give you the solution. This is the solution." The man goes back, he never meets him again, it comes out to be true. Now this is organ of knowledge. How does he know? Day in and day out this is happening. This is a fact, psychological fact. Now yoga develops this inner consciousness in you, different ways of knowing, feeling, doing. Yogis do things in a very different manner that ordinary people do, because they've got the knowledge. This knowledge comes from various spiritual disciplines, meditation, concentration, prayer, all the kind of thing, which are common in all religions. I've been in Roman Catholic monasteries in America, which seem to have a Hindu ashram. Excepting the service was different, the consciousness there, which was collective, was very much like that in a Hindu ashram. I felt very at home. It's very true. And so it happened at Protestant Church in England also. They invited me to give a lecture on comparative religion, stressing on Hinduism, which I did. They asked me to stay overnight if I wanted to, so that I could join the service next night. I was going to ask whether I could do it myself. I was invited to do it. And in the night service, I was in a Hindu temple. So there is some kind of unity somewhere at the spiritual level. And it comes out in different contexts, different communities, different monasteries. In Japanese Zen monasteries, the same thing happened with me. I was in a zazen, the monasteries, And when the concentration became very intense, suddenly exploded. Everybody felt one. I was the only stranger there. Now how does it happen? It happens because from the yogic point of view, not only Sri Aurobindo's, yogic point of view, there is a certain underlying unity of the spirit, because they are all spiritual beings. We are not physical, vital, mental, intellectual, moral, aesthetic, primal. It is only external, surface. But how do you find the spirit in you? For that you come to yoga. And yoga is not Hindu. It's only a Sanskrit word. It's a 14th century classic called the Cloud of Undoing. There the first disciplines are give away all images, all imaginations, all constructions, all thinking or speculation. This word by word follows yogic textbooks in India. You read Eckhart, great German mystic philosopher. First thing he says, give up all images. Why? The spiritual disciplines are more or less in substance the same everywhere. This is because spirit is one. On the other hand, spirit expresses itself in a diverse manner, giving the complexity and difference of human nature. So you see diversity and unity together. We, because of our ego, because we have disconnected ourselves with God, we have fallen, if you like, in the image of the Old Testament. We are standing over against God. Therefore, we have the conflict. So this unity of God, the oneness of God, which is a fundamental truth, which all religions declare in one voice. But the moment that we interpret, there are differences. So unity and diversity is already in the God's nature. It's extremely diverse and always one. So because of that, we have to get hold of the unity first, without forgetting that it is also diversely expressed, manifested. How do you keep the two together? That you can do only not by the mind, but in the soul in me, which is spiritual. That is already unified diversity, or diversified unity, whichever you put it. As I said, unified diversity or diversified unity. But the unity is the basic. Diversity is secondary. But because the world is real, according to Sri Aurobindo, it is not false or illusory, diversity has to be accounted for and allowed, but on the basis of unity. So human unity also will come about when you allow for the diversity of human nature of different nations, countries, traditions, cultures, etc. Also build it on the basis of unity, which is spiritual. So being a yogi and a mystic, he looks at all problems from the spiritual point of view. What is spirit doing in this context? Spirit is struggling to come out of diversity and conflict, a struggle, or effort and endeavor, and evolving a unity which will be very manifest to everybody. So ideal of human unity will be part of the whole problem of evolution. And there the main problem is that man is progressing towards the evolution of a higher consciousness than the mind. He calls it the supermind, for want of a better term. But supermind is God's own knowledge of himself and his own native power of acting, which has not functioned in the world yet. If that level of consciousness, which is God's own knowledge and his own native power of acting, starts functioning in human nature, there will be a radical transformation of human nature, down to the physical. And human unity will be part of this problem on the vital level. That is his standpoint from the spiritual yogic point of view. There are people who don't want it. They say, as we are, we will remain like this. This is the ego. This is revolt against God. The God's purpose is to evolve man into a higher level of consciousness. Man doesn't want to do it. This is why, you see, man is a very high being. He is a child of mind. You will be interested to know that the Sanskrit for the word man is manava, which means the child of mind. We are mental beings primarily, which is a very glorious thing. See what mind has achieved. Amazing things, and yet mind has also done things which are absolutely inhuman, animalish, beastly. Both are men. This is why Shinda says that nature has to change, both outward and inner. So the fact that on the physical level, not only physical, vital, mental, body, life, mind, all these levels, there are people who do not want to change. Inertia. We are as we are. We'll carry on like this. A lot of people are very idle, doesn't do anything at all. Altogether, humanity also has got that pull downwards. Inertia in a collective level, if you like. And there are people who do not want it. That is why Shinda said, it's a very crucial sentence. One of the tasks of the supermind will be to break down all mental molds. And I think that is happening in front of us. Morality, ideas of education, ideas of international economy, politics, everything is changing, radically changing. This is because just sticking to mind and the solutions, they're not enough. We build up things and we fail all the time. Because the consciousness behind the mind is not sufficiently knowledgeable. We do not know enough. I'll give an example. There are dams being built in India because they need the water somewhere stored up, and then suddenly a number of villages flooded out. They didn't see that this is going to happen when they built the dam. In fact, take a very ordinary example, mundane experience. Why do we not know what is going to happen if we build the dam to the villages and the people there? They don't even think about it. Break the mental mold in a larger way, not only this dam and villages being flooded. There is only one mundane example I am giving, ordinary example. But in all things, we really do not. League of Nations, it was built at such high hopes in 1919. It failed even before it was founded. Why? Now we got the United Nations. And it is also failing almost everywhere. A great idea. Yes, as an idea. But the vital power behind it is not enough to force itself on people because the spiritual unity is not there. The nations don't feel they belong to one committee of world community. They don't feel it. And even the European Union has been founded and great things have been done there. It is actually standing against America because of domination. This is a conflict. Now, how can we stop America dominating Europe and yet Europe remaining a European Union? This is a mental problem mind cannot solve. If I find the spirit in you, find a community there, that we are at a certain level, one kind of being, then I will allow you to do your life to develop the way that you should. Understand in your way. Because I will know what is your destiny and which way you should go. And you will do the same with regard to me. So there will be no conflict. At the moment I think you should do this and not do this. Who am I to decide? But I do it because of my ego. I've read a little more philosophy than you have. Therefore I will tell what he is going to do. Who am I to tell? I know something of music, of Indian music, which is very little. And then you tell me, no, that is not it. It is like this. And so who are you to tell me? You don't know anything about Indian music, but I don't do it because it creates conflict. So please learn something, be patient and learn a little about Indian music, then tell me. I do the same about Beethoven to you. I don't know nothing about Beethoven. I like his 9th Symphony. I love it. And 42nd of Mozart. I play it very often. I'm out when I listen to it. But then I know nothing of the technicality of it. When in Europe, I attended many, many beautiful concerts all over Europe. Well, not quite all over Europe. Central Europe I don't know very well. But it actually took me out of myself. European music. What to speak of Indian music? Now there is some unity somewhere. The concentration of sounds in music in Europe and India are basically the same, though it is melodic and that is purely symphonic. Why? How can an Indian respond to these Mozart symphonies? When I first heard it, I really was lost, completely lost. What is this? Creative music of the highest kind. And I know nothing about the music. What is it that responds in me to that kind of music? There's some unity somewhere. These are the examples that unity actually is functioning if you develop your consciousness a little, even a little. Why is this poverty? Because you exploit people. I'm not a communist, I'm not a Marxist. There is some truth in the exploitation. A lot of people try to exploit other people for their own good, selfish interest. This is the basic principle. Poverty need not be there, quite frankly. If things are organized in the right way and economically, then there should not be any poverty. India is a very poor country. Even then, people are coming up in standard of living. A lot of people are below the poverty line. A lot of people have come up, crossed the poverty line also. This is happening all the day in and day out. And yet there are certain farmers who are committing suicide because they don't have any water to irrigate the land. That also is happening at the same time. But this is because the government is there in that particular states engaged in other things and not giving themselves any attention to that. If they did, this would not happen. This again is a question of mental knowledge, which is ignorance. So poverty is something that has to be addressed, definitely. But it is done on a very wide scale, economically, politically, and I will say psychologically. Because I don't care if there are poor people, quite frankly. There are people in Pondicherry who say, oh, they're living on the street, let them do it. I've got a motorcycle. Now this is again ego. I don't think of anybody else, I think of myself only. This is again a psychological, spiritual problem. Because spirit is a fundamental reality, God is a fundamental reality. Whatever people may say, nobody can actually blot God out of existence. He just is. Call it God, call it absolute, call it whatever you like. But there is some being, some force, some power, which is of the spiritual variety or kind, and it is. Everything is a manifestation of that. In the process of manifestation, because of human ego, things have gone wrong. Fall of man. A very great image, that. But as Sachin interprets by saying Adam is soul, spiritual soul, and Eve is nature, you were attracted by nature and got into caught by it. Temptation. But there's an image, poetic image. The truth is this. So how is it that I don't get snared by nature, but I use nature to develop? My nature is both bad and good at the same time. Everybody is a mixture. So this mixture will have to be sorted out. So those things which create the mixture, the elements will remain, but without conflict with each other. This is again yoga. You come to a certain basic psychological discipline by which this can be done. So I'm talking of yoga on a very low level, so to speak. As a human problem, how to solve those things. It can bring myself to God, with union with the divine, and so on and so forth. It may, and it does. But today, the problem of humanity can be addressed only by a new psychology, which is more harmonious, which sees the reasons for conflict and see how the way to resolve the conflict. This new knowledge has to be there in a collective way, not just individually. I will give an example if you have got time. There's a place called Sarnath, about 800 miles or little less than north of Varanasi. And the Buddha first preached a sermon there. It's a great pilgrimage for Buddhists. Hindus also flock there. I once happened to be there with some friends. They were talking about this place and so on and so forth. A Burmese monk who is Buddhist just passed very slowly and gradually. He looked at us. We're all completely saturated with peace. Actual concrete peace which felt like ice without a discomfort. The whole body went completely cool. Not cold, but cool. The man only looked at us, did nothing. He had got this peace within himself. He can radiate it. It's my own concrete experience. Even now I can recover the experience if I wish to. Concentrate on that experience, I can still get it. So much power is there in the peace. He's a Burmese monk, he's not a Hindu, he's a Buddhist. But he was a yogi. He developed this other conflict within himself, completely resolved them. He had no conflict within himself, and therefore he got peace. Peace is not a negative thing. I'm talking of yoga here. Peace is a positive value. Not merely want of conflict, of struggle within yourself, whatever. But it is actually speaking a positive reality and a value. A lot of people don't have problems in life, but they're not at peace, either with themselves or with others. Now this you can find out and discover by yoga and habit yourself. If you did that, you won't have conflict with other people. You're very tolerant, very patient, you will know why they're doing what they're doing. You will not even judge them, not criticize them. How to develop that? Find yourself that focus, that center in you, which gives you peace, which is inherent in it, and therefore the conflicts will not be there. I'm talking in terms of practical psychology. So human unity will also have to be basically a psychological demand by humanity, that we want unity, aspire for it, sincerely, honestly. And the psychological demand will bring about conditions in outer life which will foster human unity. It's a great problem, because I am a very complex man, like as you are. I've got tendencies which are very contradictory. How do I bring about a center? How do I bring about a focusing on the center in me which do not allow for diversity, which are conflicting? This is my professional problem. You also have the same problem. Everybody has. So there are ways of bringing about such a centralization of my different diverse tendencies of my nature. It can be done. And then you come back to yoga again, by which I do not mean anything Hindu. Basic psychological disciplines, that's about all. And as I say, I read different classics in comparative religion by mystics. They all speak in the same language, insofar as the practical discipline is concerned. And that is where you take hold of. When it speaks of spiritual religion of humanity, it means this. The cult, the creed, the dogma, the theory, the explanation of how the world came to be, these are not important religion at all. The core is something else, opening out to God's influence and union with Him. This can be done in any religion. People have done it in every religion.